everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this important topic with you today. As we begin our discussion on climate change, one of the most pressing environment challenges of our time. Today, we will be discussing climate change, its causes, and how it affects agriculture and farming communities. Climate change is a global issue that not only affects the environment but also food production, soil health, and livelihoods, especially for farmers. So, when we talk about climate change, we are not just talking about weather changes, but also about people, food security, and our future. This topic is important because agriculture is both affected by climate change and part of the solution. What is climate change? To fully understand why climate change is such a serious concern, it is important that we first define what climate change really means and why it matters on a global scale. Climate change refers to long-term changes in temperature, rainfall, and other climate patterns that occur over many years. According to Malay et al. 2021, climate change happens when greenhouse gases build up into the atmosphere and trap heat, causing global warming. This is a global issue because climate change does not affect only one country. Rising temperatures, stronger storms, longer droughts, and unpredictable weather are being experienced worldwide. Even countries that contribute less to emissions can still suffer from climate-related disasters. Scientific studies show that the current rate of climate change is faster than natural climate changes in the past, mainly due to human activities. Now that we understand what climate change is, the next important question is, what causes climate change and why is it happening so rapidly today? The main cause of climate change is the increase of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These gases come mostly from human activities. Chin and Al 2024 explained that burning fossil fuels for electricity, transportation, and industries releases large amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Everyday activities like using vehicles, electricity, and manufactured products contribute to this problem. Agriculture also contributes through livestock production, fertilizer use, and land clearing. Land use change, especially deforestation, worsens the problem because trees absorb carbon dioxide. When forests are removed, more greenhouse gases remain in the atmosphere, increasing global temperatures.
Good day, everyone. Next, we will tackle agroecosystems as climate interfaces and vulnerabilities. First, let us discuss agroecosystems as climate interfaces, starting with the role of agriculture in greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture is not only about feeding people. It is also a major link between human activities and the climate system. Globally, agriculture contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, and two sectors stand out: the livestock and crop production. Role of agriculture in emissions. First, the livestock sector. Livestock is responsible for up to 18% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. Most of these emissions come from methane, released during digestion in ruminant animals, such as cows and sheep. Nitrous oxide produced from manure management and fertilizer use. Methane is about 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide, while nitrous oxide is nearly 300 times more potent, making livestock emissions especially harmful to the climate. Next is the crop production. Rice paddies are a major source of methane because Flooded fields create anaerobic conditions where methane is produced and released into the atmosphere. In addition, the overuse of nitrogen fertilizers increase nitrous oxide emissions. When plants cannot absorb all the fertilizer, soil microbes convert the excess nitrogen into nitrous oxide. As a result, staple crops like rice are essential for food security, but also contribute to climate change. Mitigation as a potential of agroecosystems. Despite these challenges, agriculture also has strong mitigation potential. First, climate resilient practices. Agroforestry integrates trees into farms, helping store carbon while improving biodiversity and shade. Crop diversification reduces risk from pests and climate extremes. Conservation tillage protects soil health and reduces carbon loss. These practices not only lower emissions but also help farmers adapt to unpredictable weather patterns. Second is smart technologies. Agrovoltaics combine solar panels with crop production, generating renewable energy while conserving water. Drought-resistant crops help ensure food security as temperatures rise and water becomes scarce. Together, this innovation shows that farming and sustainability can work hand in hand. Now, let us move to the next topic: vulnerability of crops, soils, and farming communities. Vulnerability of crops. Climate change directly threatens the productivity and nutritional value of crops. First, yield declines. Wet, rice, and maize yields are projected to decrease by 10 to 25% with just a 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature. Even small increases in heat stress can disrupt pollination, shorten growing seasons, and reduce harvest. This is alarming since these crops feed billions of people worldwide. Next, nutrient loss. Higher carbon dioxide levels reduce the protein, zinc, and iron content of crops. This leads to hidden hunger, where people eat enough calories but lack essential nutrients, increasing the risk of malnutrition, especially in vulnerable populations. Vulnerability of soils. Healthy soils are the foundation of agriculture, yet they are increasingly at risk. First, erosion from extreme rainfall. Heavy downpours wash away fertile topsoil, which takes centuries to form. This loss reduces productivity and weakens long-term soil stability. Second, salinity intrusion in coastal areas. Rising sea levels push salt water into farmlands, making soil saline and less productive. In low-lying countries like Bangladesh, millions of people depend on coastal agriculture and are directly threatened by this problem. Lastly, let us talk vulnerability of farming communities. In developing countries, farmers are highly vulnerable because they rely on rain-fed agriculture, limited irrigation, financial constraints, and weak infrastructure leave smallholder farmers exposed to droughts and floods. Climate shocks can destroy livelihoods, leading to poverty and forced migration. Coastal communities also face serious risks. Climate change can cause up to 40% biodiversity loss in fisheries, mangroves, and coastal ecosystems. These ecosystems provide food, income, and protection from storms. Their decline threatens both ecological balance and human survival. Before we end, here is a quick trivia question. Which crop is a both major global food source and a significant contributor to methane emissions due to its cultivation in flooded fields? You can have 10 seconds to answer this question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And your time is up. And here is the answer. The answer is rice.
Impacts of climate change on agroecosystems with its four subtopics: crop yield and productivity, soil health and fertility, pest and disease dynamics, livelihoods, and food security. Climate change stressors in agroecosystems. Climate change alters temperature, rainfall, and growing seasons within agroecosystems. Heat stress, drought, and erratic rainfall disrupt normal crop growth. Productive agroecosystems depend on stable climatic conditions. When we talk about agroecosystems, climate plays a major role in how crops grow. Today, changes in temperature, rainfall, and growing seasons are becoming more unpredictable. Heat stress, drought, and irregular rainfall disrupt normal crop development and reduce productivity. This shows us that stable climatic conditions are essential for maintaining healthy and productive agroecosystems. Heat stress and crop yield decline. High temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius reduce flowering success and grain formation, especially in rice crop. Hot nights lower grain quality and total yields in cereal-based agroecosystems. Early season heat stress weakens crop development and limits yield potential. When our temperatures rise above 35 degrees Celsius, flowering in crops like rice can fail, which directly affects grain production. Even hot nights reduce the quality and overall yield of cereals. Early heat stress also weakens plant growth, so the potential harvest is much lower. As you can see, heat doesn't just make plants uncomfortable. It really impacts the productivity of our agroecosystems. Drought, rainfall, variability, and yield loss. Drought severely affects rain-fed agroecosystems and reduces harvests by up to 40%. Irregular rainfall disrupts planting schedules and crop water availability. Climate trends have already reduced global yields of major grains by 4 to 13%. Now let's think about farmers relying on rain to grow their crops. When drought hits, harvest can drop by nearly half. Irregular rainfall also makes it hard to know the right time to plant, and crops may not get enough water when they need it most. Studies show that these changes in climate have already reduced yields of wheat, maize, and rice by 4 to 13% globally. I want you to imagine how this affects both farmers and the food we see in the market. This is what climate stress does to agroecosystems every day. Soil health and fertility. Climate change effects on soil processes in agroecosystems. Rising temperatures and altered rainfall affect soil moisture and biological activity. Changes in decomposition and nutrient cycling weaken soil fertility. Healthy soils are critical for resilient agroecosystems. Imagine the soil beneath our crops as a living system. It's not just dirt. Rising temperatures and unpredictable rainfall changes how the soil stays and how soil organisms function. This affects decomposition and nutrient cycling, which are essential for plant growth. When soil fertility drops, agroecosystems becomes less resilient, meaning crops struggle to grow under climate stress. Ask yourself, if the soil can support the plants, how can the agroecosystem sustain food production? Soil erosion under changing climate conditions. Intense rainfall increases soil erosion and loss of nutrient-rich topsoil. Erosion reduces soil productivity and long-term sustainability of agroecosystems. Degraded soils limit crop growth and water retention. Let's think about the top layer of soil as the pain tree of our crops. It holds nutrients they need to grow. When heavy rains hit, this topsoil washes away, taking valuable nutrients with it. This erosion weakens the agroecosystems, making it harder for crops to thrive and retain water. As we reflect, let's consider how even small changes in soil health can ripple through the entire system and affect food production. Salinization and nutrient depletion. Higher evaporation and sea level rise increase soil salinity, especially in coastal agroecosystems. Saline soils reduce nutrient uptake and water availability to crops. Nutrient depletion further weakens crop performance and yields. Imagine our crops trying to drink water from salty soils. It's much harder for them to get the nutrients they need. Rising temperatures and sea levels push salts into soils, especially along coasts, making it even tougher for plants to grow. Nutrient loss adds to the challenge, reducing yields across the agroecosystems. Take a moment to think about how these hidden soil changes can quietly impact the food we rely on every day.
Good day, everyone. My topic for today is about pest and disease dynamics. Pest and disease dynamics, climate change, and pest expansion in agroecosystem. The bulleted content are warmer temperatures allow insect pests to survive in new regions. Pest population increase due to higher survival and reproduction rate. Agroecosystem face greater pest pressure under changing climates. Think about pests suddenly appearing in areas they never used. Warmer temperature help them survive and multiply, which means your crop are now competing with more pests than before. This isn't just a local issue. Agroecosystems everywhere are feeling the pressure. Picture how this could change the way farmers plan their pest management and protect their yields. Next, pest and disease dynamics, emergence of new pest and plant disease. The bulleted content are climate change contributes to the emergence of new crop pests and pathogens. Warmer and wetter conditions favor the spread of plant disease. Pathogens are now appearing in regions where they were previously absent. Imagine a disease or pest showing up in a place it never used to be. Suddenly, farmers have to deal with threats they didn't expect. Warmer, wetter conditions help these pest pathogens spread more easily. Take a moment to think about how these new challenges could affect the crops we rely on and the strategy of farmers must adapt to keep the agroecosystem healthy. Next, pest and disease dynamics, impacts on crop protection and productivity. The bulleted content are increased pest and disease pressure reduces crop yields. Farmers face higher production costs and management challenges. Disrupted pest control weakens agroecosystem stability. Think about how much effort goes into keeping crops healthy now. Imagine pest and disease becoming more aggressive and widespread. Yields drop, farmers spend more to protect their crops, and the balance of agroecosystem gets shaken. Ask yourself, how would you manage these growing challenges if you were running a farm today? Next topic is about livelihoods and food security. Climate change impacts on smallholder farmers. The bulleted content are smallholder farmers are highly vulnerable within climate-stressed agroecosystems. Climate-related crop losses reduce farm income and productivity. Health labor capacity of farming households are also affected. Imagine relying on your farm for most of your livelihood then weather extremes and crop losses start cutting into your income. Farmers don't just lose crops, their health and ability to work are challenged too. This shows us that climate change doesn't just affect plants, it affects the people who sustain our agroecosystems. Next is livelihoods and food security. Agroecosystems, food security, and market risk. The bulleted content are climate change disrupts food production and local food supply systems. Reduced yields, increased food prices, and market volatility. Poor and rural population face higher risk of hunger. Think about the ripple effects. When crops fail, local markets feel it immediately. Prices go up, food becomes harder to access, and communities that are already struggle are the most affected. It highlights how fragile our food system can be when climate stresses agroecosystems and why supporting farmers is critical for everyone's food security. Next, livelihoods and food security. Adaptation strategies to protect agroecosystems. The bulleted content are climate-smart agriculture strengthens agroecosystems resilience. Support system and policies improve farmers' adaptive capacity. Protecting agroecosystems is key to long-term food security. Imagine farmers using techniques that not only help their crops survive heat, drought, or floods, but also maintain health of the entire agroecosystems. Policies and support systems make it easier for them to adapt and keep food flowing to our communities. Protecting the agroecosystem isn't just good for crops, it's essential for everyone who depends on food security.
So before we move on to the next, let's test what we've learned so far. Question number 1. Which greenhouse gas is most associated with livestock production? The answer is methane. Methane is released mainly from enteric fermentation in livestock. It's a potential greenhouse gas that contributes significantly to climate change and indirectly affect the agroecosystems. For number 2, it is true or false. Climate change can increase pest pressure in cooler regions. Is it true or false? So the answer is true. As temperatures rise, pests can survive in areas that were previously too cold for them. This expands their range and increases risks for crops, even in cooler agroecosystems. Next, the last one. Name one crop in the Philippines that is highly sensitive to drought. So our answer here is rice, because rice is extremely sensitive to water stress, especially during flowering and grain filling stages. Drought can significantly reduce yields, impacting both food security and farmers' livelihoods. Take a moment to reflect on these points, because what we've learned here will help us understand how we can better adapt our farming practices to a changing climate.
Now that we have discussed the significant impacts of climate change on our local communities, we must shift our focus towards a path forward. My part of the discussion covers Section 4, or the mitigation and adaptation strategies. While the challenges are immense, the strategies we implement today, ranging from the fields of our farmers to the halls of government, will determine the resilience of our food systems. First, let's look at the literal ground level of adaptation. Climate-smart agriculture. The goal here is to transform our farming systems to be more productive and resilient simultaneously. This involves diversified cropping, or moving away from monocultures to reduce the risk of total crop failure. Agroforestry, integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural landscapes to improve biodiversity and soil health. Lastly, water-efficient technologies, implementing smarter irrigation and water management to combat the erratic rainfall and droughts we've previously discussed. These aren't just technical changes, they are essential for survival and strategies for our agroecosystems. Second, we recognize that individual farmers cannot do this alone. Policy and institutional supports are the backbone of large-scale adaptation. In the Philippine context, we look toward first the Department of Agriculture or DA programs, which provide necessary resources and training for modern farming. Next is the Local Government Unit or the LGU initiatives. These are crucial because climate impacts vary by province. Local leaders are best positioned to implement tailored solutions. Lastly, international partnerships. By collaborating across borders, we share technology and funding to strengthen our national food security. Finally, we must address the engine of future change, youth and innovation. To the students, researchers, and aspiring agriculturists in our audience today, you are the primary drivers of climate action. Whether it is through developing new agricultural apps, researching climate resilient crop varieties, or championing sustainable business models, your role is indispensable in bridging the gap between traditional farming and modern science. To conclude, mitigation is not just about reducing emissions, it is about building a system that can withstand the storm. Through climate smart practices, strong institutional backing, and the energy of the youth, we can secure the future of Philippine agriculture. Thank you for your attention, and I will now hand the floor to the next presenter.
Good day everyone. I'll be discussing about the mitigation and adaptation strategies. Climate change is a pressing global issue that requires immediate and comprehensive action. Two key strategies for addressing climate change are mitigation and adaptations. Mitigation focuses on reducing the emission of greenhouse gas, which are the primary drivers of global warming. This involves transitioning to renewable energy source, improving energy efficiency, and implementing sustainable land use practices. Adaptation, on the other hand, involves adjusting to the current and future of climate change. This includes measures such as building resilient infrastructure, developing true disease-resistant crops, and implementing early warning systems for extreme weather events. The World Resource Institute emphasized the importance of integrating mitigation and adaptation strategies. Some climate actions can stimulatively address both goals, leading to more effective and efficient outcomes. For example, reforestation projects can sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, while also providing ecosystem services that enhance resilience to climate impacts such as flood and droughts. Similarly, investing in public transportation can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve mobility during extreme weather events. A holistic approach to climate change involves recognizing the synergies between mitigation and adaptation. By implementing strategies that achieve both goals, communities and nations can build a more sustainable and resilient future. This requires collaboration among governments, business, and individuals to develop and implement innovative solutions that address the complex challenge of climate change. The article describes several effective strategies using decentralized renewable energy, such as local solar or wind system, lower carbon emission and makes energy supplies more reliable during climate-related disruption. Sustainable agriculture and land use practices, including climate-smart farming, reduce emissions while helping farmers cope with droughts and floods. Climate-smart buildings are designed to use less energy and protect people from heat and storm. The strategies highlighted in this article decentralized renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate-smart building represent key approaches to addressing climate change through both mitigation and adaptation. Decentralized renewable energy utilizing local solar or wind systems not only reduce carbon emissions by replacing fossil fuels but also enhance the reliability of energy supplies during climate-related disruption. This dual benefit is crucial for building resilient communities capable of withstanding extreme weather events. Climate Sustainable agriculture and land use practices. Climate smart farming techniques lower emissions and sustainably support farmers in managing the impacts of drought and floods. These practices improve soil health, conserve water, and promote biodiversity and contributing to both environmental sustainability and food security. Climate smart buildings. Designing buildings to use less energy and provide protection from heat and storm is essential for reducing the carbon footprints of the built environment and ensuring the safety and well-being of occupants. This building often incorporate features such as energy efficient isolation, passive cooling system, and resilient construction materials. By implementing these strategies, communities can make significant strides in mitigating climate change and adapting to its effect, fostering a more sustainable and resilient future. Improving public transportation. Investing in public transportation system reduce vehicle emissions, contributing to climate change mitigation. Simultaneously, it ensures mobility during extreme weather events, enhancing community resilience and adaptation to climate impacts. Protecting and restoring coastal wetlands, mangroves, and other coastal wetlands act as a carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and mitigating climate change. They also provide critical protection against flooding and storm surge, serving as a natural adaptation measures of coastal communities. Recognizing indigenous and land rights. Acknowledging and upholding indigenous land rights support forest protection, which is essential for carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation. Additionally, traditional land management practice enhance community resilience to climate change by promoting sustainable resource use and ecosystem health. These strategies demonstrate that effective climate action requires a holistic approach that integrates mitigation and adaptation efforts. By implementing such strategies, communities can simultaneously reduce their carbon footprint, enhance resilience to climate impacts, and promote social equity.
Good day, everyone. For the part 3 of our webinar, we will be discussing case studies and the local relevance, focusing on how climate change affect agriculture in the Philippine context. The Philippines is considered one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. Because of our geographic location, we frequently experience typhoon, flood, drought, and rising temperatures. These climate-related events have become more intense and more frequent over the year. Agriculture is one of the sectors most strongly affected by climate change. Our agroecosystem depend heavily on stable weather patterns. When these patterns change, it directly affects crop growth, soil quality, water availability, and ultimately farmers' livelihoods. Since many Filipino farmers rely on the rain-fed agriculture, even small changes in rainfall or temperature can already result in significant losses. This shows how closely climate change and agriculture are connected in our country. Climate change has a significant impact on climate-sensitive crops in the Philippines, especially those that are essential to our food security and rural livelihoods. Let us start with the rice, which is staple food of the most Filipino. Rice is highly affected by flood and drought. During heavy rains and typhoons, rice field can be submerged, causing crop loss. On the other hand, during dry season or El Nino event, lack of water can delay planting and reduce harvest yields. Even a small changes in the rainfall can already affect rice production. Next is corn, which is very sensitive to high temperature and lack of rainfall. Heat stress affects the growth of corn plants and reduces grain quality. Since corn is used both as food and animal feed, reduced corn production can also affect the livestock sector. Another important crop is coconut. Coconut trees are often damaged or uprooted by strong typhoons. Unlike other crops, coconut trees take many years to mature. This means that when typhoon destroy coconut plantation, farmers may lose their source of income for a long period of time. Lastly, the sugarcane. Sugarcane is also affected by climate change, especially during drought. Sugarcane needs enough water to grow properly. When rainfall is low, sugar content decreases, resulting in reduced yield and lower income for farmers. Overall, these crops are not only important for food production, but also serve as the main source of livelihood for millions of Filipinos. Climate change threatens both food availability and economic stability in farming communities. Understanding how climate change affects these major crops helps us realize why agriculture is one of the sectors that needs urgent attention and supports. To continue this discussion, Carlin will now present how these impacts are experienced in specific regions and how local communities are responding to climate change.
Now that we have seen how climate change affects agriculture in general, let's zoom in closer to the people, the places, and the real stories behind the data. This is where local experiences and case studies become very important. Let's start with local experiences. Climate change does not affect all parts of the Philippines in the same way. Where you live matters. In Visayas, farmers often face strong and frequent typhoons. These typhoons can destroy crops in few hours, wash away filtered topsoil, and damage irrigation systems. For example, after a strong typhoon, rice fields can remain flooded for days. When this happens, rice plants cannot breathe properly, and farmers may lose their entire harvest. Did you know that soil erosions caused by heavy rains can reduce farm productivity for many years, not just one season? In Mindanao, the problem is often the opposite: drought and El Nino. Farmers experience little to no rainfall, dry soil, and water shortage for irrigation. Without enough water, crops like corn and rice fail to grow properly. Some farmers are even forced to leave parts of their land unused. Without enough water, crops like corn and rice fail to grow properly. Some farmers are even forced to leave parts of their land unused. Think about this. What happened to food supply when farms stop producing? This example shows that climate change has different phases in different regions. Despite these challenges, farmers are not just victims, they are problem solvers. Without enough water, crops like corn and rice fail to grow properly. Some farmers are even forced to leave parts of their land unused. Think about this. What happened to food supply when farms stop producing? This example shows that climate change has different phases in different regions. Despite these challenges, farmers are not just victims, they are problem solvers. First is farmer-led innovations. Many farmers experiment on their own, adjusting planting schedules, changing crop spacing, and mixing crops to reduce risk. For example, some farmers plant earlier to avoid typhoon season, or delay planting until rainfall becomes more stable. I have a question, guys. If your harvest depended on weather, would you follow the old schedule or adapt? The second is indigenous farming practices. Indigenous knowledge plays a big role. Some communities read cloud patterns, observe animal behaviors, and use traditional calendars. These methods may not use modern technologies, but they are based on generations of experience. Did you know, guys, that many climate scientists now study indigenous practices because they are often climate smart and sustainable? The third is climate resilient crop varieties. These crops are designed to survive floods, tolerate droughts, and resist pests. For example, flood-tolerant rice varieties can survive even after several days underwater. Last is water-saving techniques. To deal with water shortage, farmers use rainwater harvesting, drip irrigations, and control water release. This method helps farmers save water and still protect their crops. Big question, guys. Which do you think is more important now? More water or smarter use of water? Now, let us ask an important question. Why do local case studies matter? It matters because it shows real impacts of climate change. Statistics can be powerful, but stories make them real. A local case study shows what farmers actually experience, how fast damage happens, and what solutions really work. For example, a report may say crop yield decreased, but the farmer's story shows how loss affects family income and food on the table. Local case studies show not just problems, but strength. They highlight creativity, adaptations, and community support. Farmers are consistently adjusting and learning. Did you know, guys, that some of the best climate solutions today started as a small local experiment by farmers? Policy work better when they are based on local realities. What works in Visayas may not work in Mindanao. Local case studies help decision makers design better programs, target real needs, and avoid wasting resources. I have a question for you guys. Would you trust a solution without listening to the people affected? Before we move on, let's reflect. What do these local stories tell us about? Is it just an environmental issue or also a human issue? To summarize, climate change affects regions differently. Farmers adapt using innovation and tradition. And lastly, local case studies show real impacts and real solutions. Understanding local experiences help us create a future where agriculture is not just surviving, but adapting and thriving. Understanding local experiences help us create a future where agriculture is not just surviving, but adapting and thriving. Thank you for listening. Let's continue learning from our farmers and our communities.